Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee Talk with Mac. I just want to run a quick segment here about latest news events. I want to do a little recap, and it's basically a recap of some of my most recent videos that we talked about. So I'm going to be recapping about, politics, um, Afghanistan fiasco, masks, vaccines, and what's going on. And it's not going to be a long-winded segment, but it's going to touch on a few different things that I received some comments, and I wanted to respond to the comments over here in this format. But first, before we get started, today we're brought to you by Lavazza Coffee. Lavazza was founded, it's a family-run business by the Lavazza family in Bologna, Italy. I believe in 1898 it was founded. And we export the coffee. It's different blends. This is a little darker roast that I normally drink, but I like to drink it once in a while. And it's a good tasting coffee. I'll put the link up there. I don't drink this one all the time. I told you my favorite now is Pete's Coffee, and then Organic Vermont Coffee Company, and there's others, but I like to drink this once in a while. I probably drink this about once a week. I have a cup or two of Lavazza. It's a stronger, more robust coffee, but I like it. Anyway, so I'll put the link where you could find Lavazza coffee. So there's three things I want to talk about. Particularly, the first thing is this. You hear a lot of talk about Biden messing up and his chances, and I'm going to throw some truth bombs out there. It's going to upset people on the right. It's going to upset people on the left. And I really don't care. I'm not and never have been an all or nothing type of guy. Okay. So I don't support all things conservative or Republican, and I'm not against all things that are Democratic or liberal. So there's room for discussion, there's room for interpretation, and there's always room for compromise. That's where I always felt. I consider myself more of a libertarian than conservative. I might be a conservative libertarian, if that's possible. I think it is possible. But definitely not an all or nothing type of guy. And I will tell you this, for disclosure purposes, for transparency purposes, for what we're going to talk about today. I voted for Trump in 2016. I voted for Trump in 2020. I had my reasons for it. There was no way in hell I would vote for Hillary, and knowing the history there. And I think a lot of people voted that way, and that's probably what helped Trump get elected. And I felt Biden was, and still is part of the DC problem. He's been in politics for 48 years, never had a real job outside of politics, and really accomplished nothing. And actually was kicked to the curb many times, was caught in many different lies. And I felt that he's not the answer. The problem I do have with some Trump supporters is that they're supporting the person and not the message. Okay? Trump is a messenger. The messages are interchangeable and exchangeable. It's the message that's most important. And I'm always against the people, and that was my problem I have with a lot of liberals who idolized Obama, that Obama became more important than the ideology or the message at that time, which is wrong. You got to be careful of people who cover people or idols. Okay, it's the message. There's only a certain number of times throughout the history of civilization where the messenger was just as important as the message. And we know that. We can go down the line. You got Moses, you have Jesus, you have Muhammad, you have, let's say, Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Paine, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr., JFK. So you had there was Gandhi. You had many instances where the messenger was just as important as the message, and you needed that combination for that message to succeed. But in the history of civilization, that's maybe 10 people, 10, 15 people who are just as, they were important messages and just as important as the message they were delivering. Trump is not one of them, believe me. Okay. There was certain things in place that propelled Trump to the presidency. And a lot of it had to do with the misinformation that Democrats had. They ran a bad campaign. They didn't listen to all the people. They ignored middle America, and they swung too far to the left. So there's certain reasons why the Trump train rolled on. But I believe Biden is more of a problem than Trump, because Biden is a root of all evil and all that's what's wrong with Washington, D.C. He's one of the main contributors, being there 48, 49 years now. So what you did was you voted against the person to pick Biden because you hated that person so much, but you ignored the message. And if you were objectively thinking, you would have seen the message is not too far off from a moderate Republican message, if you were looking at this objectively. So the real staunch far left liberals actually pushed Trump further to the right than he would have been, because he doesn't have a history of being that far right. Okay. It was the pressure from the far left which pushed him far right. So let's be honest there. So far left is just as to blame for Trump being president as the far right is. Okay. So let's put it out there. So people are saying, well, Trump 2024. Nah, listen, he's not going to run. And if he runs, he's not going to win. And if he's able to run and he wants to run, that's bad for the Republicans and it's bad for the conservative movement and the libertarian movement, because he's the bad messenger at this point. He has a value in his message and he has a value in keeping people involved. So you use him for the value that he has. But the goal should be to win in a presidency. Okay. So it's not to propel or install a person. It's about installing ideas. So let's talk about the midterm elections, 2022. Well, there's going to be problems for the Democrats in 2022. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that. Historically, the party in power loses a significant number of seats in midterm elections. And it's so close now, any number of seats lost would be a Republican win. So there's going to be issues there. And I am not the only one who feels that Biden will not fulfill a 4-year presidency. So a lot has to be seen for 2022. A lot could happen then. So now let's go to that takes care of that. Now let's talk about the Afghanistan fiasco. What really irks me is that you have a lot of people in the media giving a free pass to this situation here. Biden is on record. He's already on record saying the buck stops here. He takes full responsibility. Well, then give him full responsibility. Stop giving him a pass. Okay. He had the responsibility and he had the means to extend the deadline. It was a bad plan. Okay. Many professionals, many experts have said this was a bad plan, a bad situation. And he said, the buck stops here. I take full responsibility. Well, then put the responsibility on him. Stop blaming other people. It's his fault. Now he needs to correct it. He needs to stabilize it. Okay, because we need to get those people out. But let's make no mistake. We were leaving Afghanistan. Wheels were in motion. We don't belong there 20 years. We don't belong there 30 years. It's not a nation building region. There are regions around the world for nation building. That's not one of them. So I think maybe we were there too long, but the way we got out was wrong. It was not the right way. Okay, you put a lot of lives in jeopardy. So with that said, there's a lot of denial, a lot of free pass from the press, and they're not being honest. They're not being sincere. They need to hold them more accountable. They need to ask the hard questions. They had opportunities to ask the hard questions and they chose not to. And that does more for division among people than anything else. So they need to straighten it out. They need to look at this objectively. And again, they have a party in mind instead of an ideal, instead of what's best for America. What they have in mind is what's best for a party in power. And that's the wrong way of looking at it. Now I want to talk about masks, vaccines. Listen, for full disclosure purposes, I'm fully vaccinated. I got vaccinated early. I believe in a vaccine. If they have a booster, I'll probably get the booster. I believe in masks. You already saw my post with masks. Masks do work, scientifically proven to work. In regards to the vaccine, they're not putting anything evil in your body. They're not giving you a virus, because there's no part of that virus that's in a vaccine, Moderna vaccine. They're not putting microchips in your body. They're not putting magnets in your body. Okay. Do people have an adverse effect? Sure they do. Not everything is 100%. Not everything works. The best possible scenario sometimes doesn't work for some people. Okay, so yes, would you apply even a safe vaccine to millions of people? There's going to be people who have bad reactions, and maybe some people will succumb to those bad reactions. But statistically, you have a better shot getting struck by lightning twice or winning lotto than you do in dying from the vaccine. It doesn't mean people haven't died. It doesn't diminish the fact that people who have loved ones who died as a result of the vaccine, it doesn't hurt them. Yes, it does hurt them, and it does bother them, and they are in pain, and it does cause distrust. I believe a lot of this distrust for the vaccine actually occurred back in 2019, no, 2020, right about the time of the election, because the vaccine itself and COVID was used as a political weapon by the opposing party. This was probably the first time we saw a virus or a pandemic used as a political weapon from one party against the other. You had Democrats on record. Yeah, Cuomo in November of 2020, he was asked if he would be vaccinated, and he said he will not trust anything that comes out of the Trump administration. So he doesn't think he will take a vaccine that comes out of the Trump administration. Yeah, and other people say the same thing. Yeah, Kamala Harris saying the same thing, that she would not trust the vaccine that started with the Trump administration. So you had this level of distrust started politically, and it didn't stop politically. So it was used as a political weapon. It was weaponized. And once you weaponize a pandemic like this, then you're going to have people taking sides, and it causes distrust. So a lot of that misinformation, distrust was started from one party against the other party. So because the COVID was politicized, and it shouldn't have been politicized from the beginning. This was a health concern, not a politics concern. So that's my feeling with that. And you know what? I'm vaccinated because I feel it's going to help me. It's going to help my family and the people that are close to me. And I wear a mask for the same purpose. I don't wear a mask outside, but if I go to a store and they say, could you put your mask on? I'll put it on. Listen, you have freedom of the choice, right? That's America. That's what I want. I want freedom of choice. And if they say, well, you can't come in here without the mask, then I leave. That's my choice. My choice is to either wear the mask to go and shop, or not wear the mask and leave and go to another store. That's a choice. Life is about choices. Now, I will tell you this. If more people get the vaccine and more people comply, there'll be less talks about mandates. Okay, and I don't think it's going to be mandated. I think those are just little idle threats to get people to comply and do it. But there's nothing wrong with the vaccine. It works, and it's only going to help people, not hinder people. And oh, the other thing I want to talk about is a little bit about fake news. Now, what do we see sometimes? I'm going to share screen here. They're just something from George Orwell. The further society drifts from the truth, the more we'll hate those who speak it. So we got to be able to big reason why people are so divided. This is a movie, a Netflix movie I recommend. It talks about, it's called The Social Dilemma. Now, I talked about the news before, and here's a big reason why people are so divided, because they're only watching news that supports their opinion. They're looking for confirmation bias. When I grew up, there was 3 networks. Now there are 100 networks all competing for the same news. There's 100, there's multitude of social media platforms. Okay. So you're going down that road of just looking for a confirmation bias instead of news. And the cable news networks don't care. They cater to a specific group now. 1970, ABC, NBC, and CBS, they had to cater to everybody. The news was straightforward. They couldn't lean left or right because it was a small market and it was a large number of people, and they needed to grab everybody that they can. They wanted to appeal to the masses. Cable network news is not inclined to do that anymore because they know that they could survive with just appealing to a specific target group. So that's why they lean to that group now. And what happens is, as people, we watch certain shows that just confirm our bias, what we're looking for. And we see it on the cable news, and we say, see, I told you so, it was on the news, but that's not real news. Okay, so be careful. Be careful going down that rabbit hole, that funnel, because all you do is end up in an echo chamber. Okay, this was a study done by somebody in 2016, before the 2016 election, and it talks about the most legitimate news agencies back then over here, and now you swing all the way to the left, you swing all the way to the right. So those are what news agencies to stay away from. But now you see that even this has changed. The scope of this has changed, because even a couple of these agencies, we know from recent events in the last 5 years, there's been some scandals with the Washington Post and the New York Times. New York Times had a Pulitzer Prize winning writer that they had to fire because he fabricated some stories. So probably the most trustworthy agencies in here right now is probably BBC, AP, Reuters, and every once in a while NPR. But even what we've seen in the last couple of years was NPR also has a spin to it, a slant to it now. And so basically, with all the different news outlets around there, there's just a few that you can actually trust that are trustworthy. And that's where you should be getting your news from. Everything else is entertainment. Everything else is targeting a specific group. Stay away from it. And this was on my fear video. So what could we do? Well, turn the TV off. Okay. Turn the TV off. It's filled with nothing but items to grab your attention. It's a lot of clickbait. It's there just to have you tune in, sensationalize headlines, and little substance in the stories. And every news show seems to have a slant to it one way or the other. Okay, so turn it off. All right, so that's it. That's my recap. And yeah, I just wanted to recap some events, what's transpired in the last week. So we have the Biden administration going absent from what's happening with the fiasco, the Afghanistan fiasco. A lot of criticism from the Brits, a lot of criticism from France, from Germany, and from our NATO colleagues. I don't think Trump will run in 2024, and we should go after the message, not the messenger. Okay, we don't want to idolize anybody. We want to keep the message in place. The message is what's important. And then news agencies, and the mask works, the vaccine works. Okay, so it's not all or nothing for me, and it shouldn't be all or nothing for anybody else. Just because you support Trump doesn't mean you can't believe that the vaccine works or the mask works, and vice versa. And and just because you want to wear a mask or you want to be vaccinated, stop disparaging the people who choose not to. We are a free society, and I know there's always been that debate. The debate of public good versus individual rights goes back to our young country in 1790. There was a famous case in 1790 about the public good and individual rights. So this is not anything new. But again, you have a choice. If you're not fearful, if you're in bad health and you're not fearful, limit the amount of times you go out. You can order, we live in a world now, you can order anything to your home. Okay, you can order a casket, you can order anything to your home. So you limit your exposure and stop living in fear. Okay, and that's the bottom line. Stop living in fear and just be a good human, be a good person, show empathy, and be authentic. Think for yourself. Everything you're watching has a slant to it. Always ask the question, why? Why are they saying this? What's the purpose? Always question your government. There's nothing wrong with having a healthy skepticism of your government. Always ask, why are they promoting that? Why do they want this done? Okay, so if you like this little segment, this little recap, please, over here, hit the subscribe button, subscribe, like, and please comment. And if you comment, I try to get back to you when you comment. Okay, so thank you very much, and just have a great day, and I'll see you soon.